For the past month, I've been damn near the spokesperson for the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Welcome to my day in the life with the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Galaxy S24 Ultra for being macho and dominant. I prefer the S24 Ultra. And to be fair, I don't regret it one bit. See, whether it's tech, clothes, food, or even a top tier BBL, if it's a good product, I'm going to make sure I give credit where credit is due. But see, in certain industries like fashion, entertainment, and tech, the newer, more shiny products often outshine the older products that have been proven to be more reliable. And not to sound like an old man here, but remember back in the day when movies used to be really good? The plots were original, the acting was top tier, there were more big name directors, and it felt like they made movies that were not only good for the moment, but to be enjoyed for generations to come. And recently, I've been trying to get into newer movies, but I often find most of them to lack innovation. The actors don't feel as invested, and it feels like out of every 50 new movies that come out, only about 5 are good, and the other 45 just rely on having that quote-unquote new factor. And nowadays, when I'm on Netflix or HBO Max, I almost always choose older movies and shows that I've already seen because not only are they more creative and authentic, but they've also been battle tested, and I know that if I want to smile, laugh, or cry, this is a reliable product that will get the job done. And see, that's kind of how I feel about the Galaxy S23 Ultra. A lot of people moved on to the newer, more shiny product, and that's why I will be putting the Galaxy S23 Ultra up against the S24 Ultra to show you guys that you should never really overlook an older phone, especially if it's a Galaxy. And for my Galaxy S24 Ultra fans, do not get your panties in a bunch. I am not saying this to deter anyone from buying anything new, but what I will say is that I want to open a few people's minds to where they don't only see new as always being better. Don't be scared to buy a product that's only 1 or 2 years old, because if you're looking for something reliable, an older product that has been proven to still be good a long time after its release has much more credibility than a shiny new product that is claimed to be better. Now, one way to take away that shiny new factor and give credit to an older phone is by looking at what elevates that new factor. And that's the features. Now, thanks to the Galaxy S23 Ultra getting a brand new One UI 6.1 update, it's safe to say that internally speaking, these phones offer the same exact features. So you're not missing out on anything if you decide that you want to keep your Galaxy S23 Ultra. Going down the list of AI features, you will have the circle to search feature that will let you make a circle around anywhere on your screen and it'll automatically search it up. If you take a photo and you're not satisfied with the lighting, or maybe you just wish it looked better, the S23 Ultra now has a remaster button that will enhance the contrast, tone up the brightness, and fix every minor error that it sees in your photo. If you take a photo and you see unnecessary background noise on the S23 Ultra, you can just hit the erase reflections button and your reflection on that window is gone just like that. If you take a selfie and it's nice, but you feel like a little blur could help, all you have to do is add background blur, which means that you don't have to enter portrait mode to get the same results. You can remove subjects completely if someone photobombs your pic, and say you want to adjust a picture to be a certain angle, the S23 Ultra will not only let you adjust it, but it will fill in the outside of the photo to fit the overall aesthetic. And my favorite feature that I loved on my S24 Ultra that is also on my S23 Ultra was the Magic Editor, which basically lets you move anything in the photo. And see, these AI features were a major selling point of the Galaxy S24 Ultra. It's one of the many things that made it feel new, but after the One UI 6.1 update, what it only did was bring a breath of fresh air to the Galaxy S23 Ultra and make it feel like an even better purchase. And that's why I wanted to highlight some of the strengths of both phones, because at the end of the day, they're much more comparable than you think. Now, while I do want to tell you guys that the Galaxy S23 Ultra's display is the exact same as the S24 Ultra's display, in reality, Samsung made some improvements to where you can really tell the difference. Both of these phones have a dynamic AMOLED LTPO display, but there are some things that I prefer to my Galaxy S24 Ultra. First, the S24 Ultra has a new technology on the display called anti-glare, which basically means that the display has a special coating that makes the phone 75% less reflective. So for example, here's me watching a video on my Galaxy S23 Ultra. It does look good, but you can see that there is some noise that stops you guys from seeing the true colors of the display. And here is me watching that same video on the Galaxy S24 Ultra, and the difference is night and day. The colors were much more clear, the noise is non-existent, and you're much less distracted even when looking at your screen. Even when I put both of these phones at an angle where they are directly across from the window, the S23 Ultra doesn't negate any noise, but in the same spot, the S24 Ultra gives a totally different outcome. And what really complements this is the fact that Samsung has also significantly increased the brightness on the S24 Ultra, which is at 2600 nits, versus the Galaxy S23 Ultra, which is at 1750 nits. And this, along with the anti-glare coating, will make a huge difference when you're using your phone outside or in a very bright setting. Also, one of the more minor differences between the displays is that the Galaxy S24 Ultra has now moved to a more flat display, whereas the S23 Ultra has a curved display. Now, this difference is always a very touchy subject for me because I like flat displays since it does help with less accidental touches, but I also like the curved displays since it not only gives a much more premium aesthetic, but it also makes the display bezel-less, which results in a cleaner viewing experience. And let me know down in the comments, which one do you guys prefer, because on my side, I'm pretty much 50-50. So now that we've gotten some differences out the way, let's take a look at why these displays are very similar. Now, as I've said before, they both have the exact same resolution, which can go up to 1440p. So whether you choose the Galaxy S23 Ultra or the S24 Ultra, you will be getting a really good looking display that will give you crystal clear quality. Both of these phones have a really high 120Hz refresh rate with incredible scrolling speeds. Both phones are extremely responsive to the touch, and both phones have the exact same feel when it comes to that Samsung signature sharpness. Now, display isn't the only sharpness that the S23 and S24 Ultra has. Both of these phones have very sharp pointy curves all around. And I love how Samsung is sticking with the same look while still adding little details that slightly improve the user's comfort. The S24 Ultra implemented a new titanium material, while the S23 Ultra has an aluminum frame with Corning Gorilla Glass on the back. The S24 Ultra continues that titanium matte feel all around, including the sides, which is very soft to touch and great at dealing with fingerprints. The S23 Ultra sides give off a much more stainless steel type of feel, which looks very premium, but it can attract many more fingerprints no matter how much you touch it. And in regards to material, I don't want you guys to get confused with fancy names. Both of these phones have the exact same feel on the back. Both have a matte feel and look, while being extremely smooth to touch. And as far as comfort, I preferred the S24 Ultra's bigger yet boxier frame, and despite it being very slippery, holding it gave me less anxiety compared to the S23 Ultra since it feels much slimmer and I wasn't able to maintain a firm grip most of the time. The titanium material on the sides of the S24 Ultra handle much better than the Galaxy S23 Ultra. As you can see on the bottom of my S23 Ultra, there have been much more scratches due to the charger cable brushing up against it, and the titanium was able to handle this problem much better since I have not even minimal scratches. Now, durability is one thing, but what about longevity? As of May 2024, the Galaxy S23 Ultra will only be getting 4 years of software upgrades, which means that this phone will be up to date until 2027. And as for the Galaxy S24 Ultra, it will be getting 7 years worth of software upgrades, which means that this phone will be up to date until 2031. And this is what it'll look like by the time it's on its last update cycle. Wow. And I know that many of you guys are wondering how One UI 6.1 is doing on both phones. And I must admit that I've been nothing but impressed. It doesn't really matter which phone you get because both the S23 and S24 Ultra are able to run incredibly smooth. You still get top tier customization, you get the exact same features, and you get an overall solid experience that has that unique Samsung feel. Even when looking at the battery, both of these phones were still able to give me similar results, but I think that this fares better for the Galaxy S23 Ultra since this phone is not only older, but it also has been battle tested to the point where you know it'll be able to last for a long time. On both phones, I'm lasting all day with 6 to 7 hours of on-screen time, and as you guys know, I hate power saving mode and do not ask me why. I put the display on 1440p and I maintain high brightness, so there is absolutely no cheating on my end. And I only charge my phone at night, so not only do both of these phones have a reliable power source, but they also support 45 watt fast charging, which will charge your phone from 0 to 100 in 1 hour and 5 minutes. Now, one more thing that I wanted to note is that I still have doubts as to whether or not the S24 Ultra will last a long time because I have yet to see it. There's no telling what the battery performance will be a year from now, so when it comes to battery, I'm going with the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Now, the last two things that I wanted to compare between the Galaxy S24 and S23 Ultra are two things that are very similar, and that's the processing power and the camera. Now, I have laid back when it comes to gaming on my phone, but every once in a while, I'll boot up a game of Call of Duty Mobile or Asphalt 9. I'm in the United States, which means that all of our Galaxies come with a Snapdragon chip, and the difference between this year and last year's model is basically non-existent. I feel like smartphone chips have gotten so advanced to the point where it's barely noticeable. Yearly leaps aren't much anymore, and it'll have to be at least a 3-year gap before you can tell the difference in power and speed. Right here, you can see me playing Call of Duty Mobile on both phones, and I usually like to run on the highest settings. I also usually keep my phone plugged in since I get the utmost power, and as you can see, both the S23 and S24 Ultra look extremely identical, which honestly isn't surprising. Even with a game like Asphalt 9, it's not as heavy hitting as Call of Duty, but it will test out your phone's refresh rate and power. Both phones look great, the refresh rate never dropped, and if you are a mobile gamer, you can't go wrong with either phone. Taking a look at camera, you're getting the same exact specs all around, 200 megapixel main, 10 megapixel telephoto, and a 50 megapixel periscope telephoto that is only separated by 5 times optical zoom. And speaking of zoom, both of these phones are among the best in their respective categories. Again, the S24 Ultra transitions to a 5 times optical zoom, while the S23 Ultra has 10 times optical zoom, but I still wanted to compare to give you guys insight on each difference. Selfies have improved a lot, especially when it comes to skin tones. Both had a great amount of blur, both had great sharpness, and both handle lighting very well. Even when it comes to everyday photos, you can tell that the S23 Ultra is still able to do the same job despite being a year old, which kind of shows that when it comes to camera, Samsung didn't really feel the need to change anything on the S24 Ultra when it came to software or hardware. Even videos didn't change as much. The front camera was still good, but can struggle with lighting at times. Pans were very smooth, and this is without me implementing the steady shot feature. And the main camera was able to provide some of the best videos in the game, filled with vibrance, the right amount of sharpness, and created a nice balance. And those are my final thoughts in regards to the Galaxy S23 Ultra compared to the Galaxy S24 Ultra. While I must admit that the S24 Ultra has some noticeable differences, I think that most of these differences can be put aside if you're able to get a Galaxy S23 Ultra for a cheaper price. The S23 Ultra has been battle tested, it has the same features, it has damn near the exact same build quality, and it was one of the best phones of 2023 for a reason. The only thing that I think will make the Galaxy S24 Ultra more worth it at this point is if you want to get 7 years of software upgrades, but that all depends on if you want to keep the same phone for 5+ years. And in regards to the Galaxy S23 Ultra, being with a product for over a year that does well will always be more reliable than a product that just came out. So technically, it's a better buy. And at the end of the day, I don't want you guys to feel pressure into always buying the latest phone, especially when the older, cheaper model works just as good.